the SAT through the MCAT. My other head is to talk about college admissions, graduate school, and professional school admissions as well. But one of the things that we've learned specifically about colleges is that many of them are using technology and challenging their students as well as their faculty to use that technology as a true tool in the classroom. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples of schools that you need to know about before you leave this room today. A couple of them will probably not be usual suspects on your list. Little Gwinnett College in Georgia. Anybody familiar with this school? Awesome, terrific. It's gotten some accolades and appropriate accolades over the last year as they instituted a program using their wireless phones on campus. And they did some pretty out-of-the-box stuff, surveys and quizzes to help enhance what they were being taught in the classroom. Also, those same students had a global positioning option so that they could be registered with the campus security on campus. They also were able to access their student records. They'd pay some fees online, check grades, and reserve out group study rooms. There are 2 things that students lopped some appropriate praise on from Gwinnett. First was checking to see how much of their scholarships remained from their in-state Hope scholarships that Georgia gives out. Not too surprising. And number 2, capturing classes on streaming video. And one enlightened administrator from Gwinnett said, "This pilot is a good example of taking the education process to where students are rather than having them come to us." Second school, Stanford University. Stanford newly minted this year an iStanford program, incidentally developed by 2 Stanford students, that ties many of the functionality that we had seen at Gwinnett over the last year, but it also included a student registration system as well as a campus locator for students to use to find other Stanford students on campus. The last school, and I know that Jeff is going to be talking about this school as well, so I won't take away much steam, Abilene Christian University. Awesome school that we've been writing about over many years at Princeton Review, and we're holding this one up as the grail for this year because they've been handing out iPhones and iPod Touches to all of their first-year undergraduates. Abilene took on the challenge of not giving out those niceties, but trying to compel students to use them in the classroom. Some of the ways that they're doing that certainly captured classroom lectures that they can see streaming on their iPhones, but also using them in class. So we had a couple of professors that were written about pretty extensively that are using their iPhones and iPod Touches in science class. In science class, as well as to capture video that could help those students prep before they come onto campus. So my point, and what I'm hoping that you can take the sense away today, is that students are using technology in some interesting ways to help enhance what they're learning in the classroom, not just a nicety. So I fully expect students to still schedule unchaperoned dates using their iPhones, but I think that there'll be some other delightful things that we'll see in the classroom. I thank you so much for your time, and I'll be around for questions.
Thanks. We're going to jump right into our next presenter. Jeff Keltner has business cards in his pocket that describe him as the Chief Business Manager for Google Apps for Education. Also, they describe him as other things, Godfather, Guru. But anyway, he's the guy to tell you a lot about what he hears from a company perspective about what colleges are doing with the software and software as a service that his company is making available. Plus, he's got some phones.
I have a phone. You can see it. It's over there. The new Nexus 1, for those who are curious, there is one in the room, so you can come take a look. But I do run the Google Apps for Education program at Google, and we have a different perspective on this than a lot of educators. And I kind of want to run through what I think is happening to education in the era of digital natives. And this is that group of students who grew up in the age of technology. And I'll start with this photo, which is my son. He's almost 9 months old, and he video chats on about every day or two with his aunt in China, his grandparents in Colorado, all from our condo in D.C. And the reality is that, Alan Kay once said, technology is anything invented after you were born. For my son, video communication instantaneously on a laptop that he has with him everywhere is not technology any more than the lights in the ceiling or the microphone on the podium. It just is. And this reality, being driven primarily by consumer technology, is what instills in your students today their expectations, both of technology in the educational environment and in many ways their actual view of the world and connections to it. And the unfortunate reality, and I don't mean this to be harsh or accusatory to any students or educators in the room, but our educational system has not changed as much as the technology our students have seen. This was a photo taken in 1937 of a fifth grade classroom. I imagine if you walked into that fifth grade classroom today, it would look almost embarrassingly similar. And as a friend of mine from Arizona State University likes to say, if Abraham Lincoln walked into that classroom, it would look shockingly similar to him, to the classroom that he was educated in at his age. So, the amount of revolution we've seen in technology has impacted many industries very dramatically, but the education industry, not as much yet. But now our students are coming into this environment with expectations that are being set by the technology they have access to at home, and there's no escaping this anymore, right? They are a new breed, and they come with a different set of expectations, and I really think there are three key areas that I would focus on what those expectations have been set to be. The first expectation is they expect to engage. Right? They do not appreciate a stand and deliver model of education. They want it to be collaborative. They want to engage with their professors. They want to engage with students. They want to engage with the real world. But they want this to be a two-way process. They want to be engaged and involved in what's happening, not listening to a lecture from someone. And this is critical in all aspects of how we think about this. And this is something technology can help us to achieve within our classrooms. Second, they expect to access anything, anywhere. I should say everything, everywhere. They expect to have a smartphone, and they expect a smartphone to have the total sum of human knowledge available to it at any point in time from any place in the world. This is very true both for the technology we give them, so they expect access to every piece of educational content you give them anywhere. They pick out their iPhone, they want to have it. They pick out their Nexus 1, they want to have it. It also impacts what we need to teach, because this is the reality they live in. They can go to Google or Wikipedia at any point in any day and find out almost any fact from history. And so asking them to memorize facts and regurgitate them on a test to them has very little value. They say, I can just Google that. In fact, there's a site, for those of you who have not seen it, called Let Me Google That For You. And if someone asks you a stupid question, you can send them a URL, and it will put a picture of Google up, and the cursor will come in, and we'll type the query and click Google, and it will come up with the results. And I send this to my mother all the time. But this is the world that they live in. Their expectation is, I don't want to know about facts, I want to know about how to apply them because I have access to information. And finally, they expect continuous innovation. When they say something is wrong with an application they see on the internet, they don't think that when the next release comes out in 3 years and is previewed at CES 6 months in advance, they'll get it. They expect that when they log in 3 days later, it will be fixed. They expect things to change rapidly. And I think this has a lot of implications for the way we view education. I talk to way too many schools that take 2 years to evaluate and plan, another 2 years to trial in one class, and then 5 years later they're going to roll out this beautiful technology program with technology that's 5 years old, which, as we all know, is not new technology. You need to be willing to fail and fail fast. Try new things and expect that some of them will not work. My favorite analogy is skiing. If you're not falling, you're not trying hard enough. If we're not failing in the classroom with some of our experiments, we're not trying enough things. We need to be out there improving on what we do. So if something works pretty well, let's do it again, let's try and tweak it. But you can't wait years to try something different in the classroom, and the students expect to see this from you. I think technology has a lot to offer here, and I'm going to go very quickly through. I think the cloud computing model has a lot to offer the educational community in delivering this. I view cloud computing as a real collaboration between core information technology companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft, and others, providing computing services to schools at a low cost and management point that allows them to innovate. Things like iTunes U, things like Google Apps, things like YouTube EDU are really amazing offerings that bring very powerful technology quickly to a schools at a cost point that probably they couldn't have done on their own. So it's a great public-private partnership model. YouTube EDU, for those who are not familiar, is a project where schools can get their own advertising-free branded YouTube channels to put their content out on. We've got great schools, Berkeley, Stanford, putting real course material on YouTube for access to anyone in the world. The other project, and I'll talk about this one, is Google Apps. This is what I focus on. And this is really a set of collaborative applications available free of charge to educational institutions to use with their students. My favorite example, and apparently my slide build did not work, but is Google Documents. And Google Documents is really built around the idea of how do we take the traditional word processing paradigm and bring it into the 21st century of collaboration. So I can create a document with 4 of my classmates that I'm working on a group project. In real time, I can watch as they type, I can leave and see comments they've left, that the professor has left, and it turns the document creation process from a personal process into a team process, much the way Josh described what Wave is doing.